Well, the last 12 hours of my life have been very, very interesting in the streaming world, and we'll talk just a bit about that at the top of the show after we get to the cold open, but, well, needless to say, there's a reason it's 7:48 and we're just getting started right now. So, let's get into it, because there's a lot of stuff to go over, and we are now, because of the fact that it's 7:48, on an abbreviated time schedule. Pfizer has been recommended by the CDC, not just approved, but recommended by the CDC for your fourth shot, your second booster. I know that all of you are all eager to ready to run out and go and get that. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. Joe Biden signs a new law that makes lynching a crime. Because I guess it wasn't a crime before. I think I know where they're going with this, and I'll explain it to you as we get down to this. So we'll talk just a bit about that. Trump asked Putin to release details of the Hunter Biden detail on a low-watch news network that's mega-centric. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. And Manchin opposes taxing the unrealized gains of billionaires. And Democrats pounce. It is going to be all this and more. You're just mad you can't date me. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. I guess I'm gonna have to turn around and change out my transitions too again, because apparently now with the new update of OBS and the fact that I lost all of my scenes in the process of having a power outage this morning, I've also lost the ability to fade out. So I'll go and get that fixed out of here because, yeah, I want a faded transition. I don't want this hard cut like we had over here. So I got a lot of stuff to fix on OBS here. I woke up this morning, my computer was off. There was a very, very brief blink of power outage apparently overnight last night. Not enough to make the stove blink, and I believe my grow lights over there in the milk jug garden that I can see from here are going to come on, the programmed ones, not the ones that are on a hard timer. The ones that are on a hard timer obviously came on regular time. But, yeah, a lot of stuff is in chaos over here right now, and I'm going to have to go back and figure out a whole lot of what's going on with that. So, plus, there's that on top of the fact that, yes, we've got some new stuff coming up, and there is officially, as of right now, a hard strike on my channel. The first hard strike in 5 years. Did I say something wrong in contemporary? Did I use the wrong music? Did I use the wrong video clip somewhere in here? No, none of those things. I have a hard strike because of an interview that Steven did while he was at the Commerce, Georgia rally, and it's misinformation. You are not allowed to spread the dangerous conspiracy. And that's actually what it says on the YouTube strike. Dangerous conspiracy theory, which is why I'm like not even complaining. I told Katie that it happened, but I'm not complaining about it because if that's the route that they want to go, this is a dangerous conspiracy theory. Fuck you. It's not a dangerous conspiracy theory. It's just you don't want people to come back and question what happened in 2020, honk honk, which nothing actually did. It was the freest and fairest election in history, honk honk. Freest and fairest. Nothing bad happened, Susan. And of course, you don't want people to question that. So it's a dangerous conspiracy theory, but it's just a warning. Yeah, usually when they get the hard strike, it's instant, can't stream for what the fuck is it? 12 hours, 24 hours a week? I don't know what it is. But I didn't get one of those, obviously, because I'm here. And that happened. That happened before I went to bed last night, and fuck these YouTube people. But yes, on top of that, and by the way, we're going to start getting the backup channel out here too, because now that I have a strike, now that I have to look at this, and as Katie pointed out, I'm actually very careful about this because it's really hard to pull new normies in when you can't go to the platform that the new normies go to. Now, the rest of you have migrated out to DLive, Twitch, Facebook, etc., but the new normies are coming in off of YouTube. Plain and simple, because that's the easiest link to share out. So, something to watch for and possibly get a new channel going up off of that, but we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. That is my morning, my last 12 hours. So, that's what we say off of that. Let's go ahead and get into some of the news of the day. But before we get started, make sure you guys go check out turnsofpagesproductions.com. Turnsofpagesproductions.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. Once we get started, once we get up off the ground, we will be carrying great shows such as The Daily Ignoramus, The R-Rated Conservative, The Breakdown with Breckenhoff, The Porch Boys, and a new upcoming project with Britt and Sean Hickman, plus a new surprise show that'll be joining the ranks as well, so go ahead and check that out. Throughout the day, if you're chatting on Twitch or YouTube, not on DLive because they don't have a robot for that, you will see links to the Discord and a Gilded server. You can come back and communicate with us. On the Gilded server, you'll have access to all the programs that are on the Turn Some Pages Productions network, so go and check that out. Discord, we are still just individual networks, so that is what it is, but go and check that out. It's going to be a great time, and if you do want to help out, the fundraiser will be being made public here in the coming weeks. Because the name docs will be coming out public. It's just private right now for those of you who are in here in the know. But help raise some money for Turn Some Pages. That is givesendgo.com/turnsomepage101. So go in and check that out. And of course, because it's Give Send Go, they have to have full government name up on the front to see who's going to be receiving the funds, which is why I've been waiting to do a name docs off of that. So thank you guys for being patient with me. Hope you guys will be ready to come back and help out because we will be doing a major fundraising drive once we get started. TurnsOfPagesProductions.com. Your one-stop shop to get news and commentary and culture from people who are just like you, who have had to make some of the decisions that you have had to make throughout your life, rather than the people who come out and tell you the news, sitting in a suit that costs more than your house. So check both of those out. Let's get into the finance for the morning. From the Dow will be the start here. The Dow was up throughout the day yesterday, all the way through the day. It didn't drop below the previous close. It was up to 35,294.19 points. It's reset, of course, because I had to spend my entire morning redoing scenes, but it's reset, and now I can't tell you what the percentage was, but yes, it did spend the entire day up. The futures are looking like they're down, though, so we'll see what happens with that. On your Bitcoin took a pretty good tumble at the beginning of the last 24-hour period, but now is coming back up and joining up. It is down, however, $255 and 60 US cents to 47,198 US dollars and 50 US cents. That's down 0.5%, but not down as far as it could have been. So we will continue to watch and see where that goes. Looking in at your scrap metal prices, copper, steel, and aluminum are on the rise on the average. It's looking like it's a good time for the metal markets here because I see a lot of green still. I mean, when we go down the list, we're not seeing red until large foreign cat. But yes, all of your coppers are up in the rise, including brass and brass shells. All of your steels, including light iron, cast iron, and a complete car. All of your aluminums, including aluminum, copper, fin radiators. Electric motors, ballast, lead, batteries, small foreign cat are all up right now, but large foreign cat, regular domestic cat, large GM cat, and small GM cat are all down. Compressors are up, alternators are up, carbide is up, hard drives are up, motherboards are up. But power supplies, low-grade boards, and PC towers are all down. So pay attention to what it is that you need to get up out of the house and get over to the recycling center. Pay attention to where that goes and what's going to get you the best money off of that. Do remember, these are national averages. These are not reflective of your individual market, so do check with your local scrapyard on your specific type of metal and the specific price that they have. Let's see what IBD has to say. From Investors Business Daily, Dow futures fall after stocks jump on Russia-Ukraine talks. Apple, Dutch brothers break out. From Ed Carson. The futures fell modestly Wednesday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. The stock market rally powered higher Tuesday on hopeful signs from Russia-Ukraine peace talks as Moscow pulled some troops away from Kiev. Crude oil and commodity prices fell, though they had paired losses. Apple, Dutch brothers, Microsoft, Fortinet, and Tesla are stocks to watch. Apple and Dutch brothers stock broke out on Tuesday, while Microsoft and Fortinet stock are offering early entries. Tesla continues to run up on the right side of the base. Concentrix, Micron Technologies, RH, and Lululemon were among notable earnings reports after the close. Yeah, I'm sure Lululemon is up there because a few people, after the holiday slump and after the Valentine's Day slump, have looked into what it is that they're doing off of that and, looked down and saw the waistline like, oh, I've got to go back to the gym, or I've got to go hike, or I've got to go do this, or got to do that. It usually happens about this time, about the time it starts to get warmer. And I'm not not hammering down on anybody for doing that either. I mean, I'm looking down right now and seeing I've gotten a little bit portly over the past couple weeks too, so I've got to do a little bit of something about that as well, but yeah, that's what we see off of that. Let's look at the Russia-Ukraine talks. A Russian negotiator called Ukraine talks constructive. Russia said it will radically cut military activity around Kiev and the nearby northern city of Chernihiv to build trust. That seems to cover for a military retreat, with some units moving back into Russia-allied Belarus. Ukrainian forces have been reclaiming territory around Kiev and elsewhere in the past several days as Russia has taken heavy losses in troops and equipment in its Ukraine invasion. Russia continued to shell the Kiev area and other key Ukrainian cities hard. Russia said a peace deal would require Ukraine staying out of NATO, but doesn't object to Ukraine joining the EU. Ukrainian Western officials expressed skepticism that Russia is serious about peace talks. U.S. officials signaled the troops may be redeploying to the Donbas area in the southeast, where Russia continues to press attacks. Yeah, well, the U.S. is also very interested in refunding and reseating Raytheon. While the major indices continue to move higher, agriculture, mining, and other commodity plays sold off with the underlying commodity prices, but the commodity prices and stocks came off the lows as some of the optimism faded over the Russia-Ukraine talks. Defense names also retreated. On the earnings, concentrics were slightly better than expected. Shares rose 1.1% on Tuesday. Micron topped quarter two views with the memory chip giant also offering bullish guidance. Micron rose solidly, shares climbed 2.7%. Lululemon topped forecasts while sales just missed, but the yoga apparel maker and retailer gave upbeat quarter one guidance and announced $1 billion Lululemon stock buyback. The stock jumped overnight, popping up to 3.7% on Tuesday, continuing to rebound from a 50-day line. RH topped the quarter four sales. Missed, RH stock fell solidly in pre-market trade despite plans for a 3-to-1 stock split. Shares had climbed nearly 5% on Tuesday, moving just above the 50-day line, but far off highs. Tesla, Microsoft are on the IBD leaderboard and the IBD 50. Microsoft and Fortinet are on the IBD long-term leaders. Dutch Brothers was Tuesday's IBD stock of the day. On your futures, Dow futures fell 0.4% versus fair value, S&P futures retreated 0.4%, and NASDAQ futures sank 0.6%. Crude oil is up again at nearly 3%. The ADP employment report estimated private payrolls rose by 455,000 in March versus a revised 486,000 in February, honk honk. That was slightly stronger than expected. The Labor Department releases its March employment report on Friday. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So that's what we see off of that. Investing.com is going to let us read, so let's get into the main news of the day. We've noticed you're using an ad blocker. Yeah, I'm using an ad blocker. Because otherwise you spam so many fucking ads on everything out there that it overloads the memory and you can't look at a goddamn thing. So yes, I am using an ad blocker, and thou canst fuck thyself. Let's see what CNBC has to say on the morning here. CDC recommends fourth Pfizer and Moderna COVID vaccine doses for people aged 50 and older. For those of you in the chat who are 50 and older, I'm sure you are all ready and eager to go out and get your next booster, aren't you? Come on, gotta get that Pfizer of the Month club, right? 7 more shots and we'll get a free pizza, right? From Spencer Kimball. The top U.S. health regulators on Tuesday cleared fourth COVID vaccine doses for older adults amid uncertainty over whether an even more contagious version of Ermagerd will cause another wave of infections in the U.S. as it has in Europe and China. The FDA authorized Pfizer and Moderna doses for everyone ages 50 and older, as well as a fifth dose for certain younger people with compromised immune systems. People aged 12 and older with weakened immune systems are eligible for the fifth dose, and those 18 and older with the same condition are eligible for Moderna. Fifth dose. Fifth dose. The CDC quickly signed off on a decision paving the way for those eligible to get a new round of boosters, as Pfizer, in an unrelated note, wrote a check, but nobody could see what the name was on it, for several $1 million to an undisclosed location. Honk honk. Let's see. The CDC also recommended that all adults who receive 2 doses of Johnson & Johnson's vaccine get third shots using Pfizer and Moderna. Adults who receive the Johnson & Johnson's vaccine and a second shot of Pfizer and Moderna are not yet eligible for a third dose unless they're age 50 and older and have compromised immune systems. All of the new boosters are to be administered at least 4 months after the last shot. The FDA and CDC made the decision without calling meetings of their vaccine advisory committees, a rare move the agencies have made more frequently over the course of the pandemic to expand uses of already approved pinko-pox jabs. The drug regulator's authorization comes just 2 weeks after Pfizer and Moderna asked the FDA to permit a second booster shot based on data from Israel. Man, there's so much here. And if my conspiracy theory best friend Steven was reading the same thing, well, I can almost guarantee he'd be taken off of YouTube for that. Just that last sentence right there. I can hear it in his voice. The FDA's Advisory Committee on Vaccines is scheduled to meet on April 6th to discuss the future of booster shots in the U.S. The vaccine experts are expected to hold a broad discussion about boosters and will not vote on a specific recommendation. Now, I know there was some discussion about, I was so careful not to say anything like this. I know you're careful about getting strikes. Thank you, KTZed, for that consideration. And sometimes I do mince my words, like, Hong Kong, freest and fairest election in history. Nothing bad happened in 2020. The freest and fairest and most secure election ever. Totally free, 81 million votes, 10 scoops of ice cream, Hong Kong, wink wink. But on this, when I say this, I'm not actually trying to avoid Susan bait. I am very much in favor of, if you want to get the vaccine, whatever you want to put in your body, put in your body. And I'm against the drug war. You want to smoke a bunch of weed, do a bunch of coke, do a bunch of heroin, do that. Don't come to me for help when you fucked up your entire life. But if that's what you need to feel good about your life, do that. And it's the same thing with the holy jab. If your religion requires you, and I mean the religion of statism, or the religion of wokeness, or whatever religion you celebrate, requires you to get 25 booster shots throughout that, do it. And if you can't get a ride to the clinic, and you're in the local Chicagoland, out to Madisonland, out to maybe even Eau Claire land area, out to the Twin Cities perhaps, if you need a ride to go to your appointment, you can't get away to get there, you can't get an Uber for whatever reason, you call up your old buddy Jay Edgar, and if, again, you're within a feasible distance from where I am right now, I'll bring you over there. You're just not allowed to pressure me to go and get the goddamn thing too. Whatever you want to put in your body, do it. I choose not to do it. I have my thoughts on this. Those thoughts will get me thrown off of YouTube, but I have my thoughts on it. I absolutely do. But that's what we see off of that. So there you go. Go back out there. Get your, your fourth shot, your second booster. So that's what we see off of that. All right. And we will start the morning on the domestic side here from our wonderful houseplant-in-chief. 81 million votes, most popular president in history, Hong Kong, 25 scoops of ice cream. This afternoon, I'm signing the long overdue Emmett Till anti-lynching law act into law, making lynching a federal hate crime. Living up to our founding principles as a nation means coming to terms with the sins of our past. Today, we take another step towards that more perfect union. Come on, man. And a lot of people are pushing back on this, the disinformation slayer. KTZed and Jim McNath are the top three that are up here. KTZed says, hasn't this been illegal in all 50 states for the past 60 years? Which it has. It's been illegal in all 50 states for much longer than that. Although, have we only had 50 states for 60 years now that I'm thinking about this? When did Alaska get admitted in? Because I believe Hawaii was the last one. And I know that was in the... No, that has only been 60 years. Yeah, we've only had 50 states for 60 years. Holy shit. Puts a few things into perspective, doesn't it? The disinformation slayer. I see a lot are saying in different posts to cancel student debt. I'm asking very fair questions. What about those that paid our student debt off? Well, my proposal for student debt actually covers that. And Jim McNabb, 150 years too late. When was the last lynchings? 1870s? Well, one of the things, and I've pieced over this bill. I have not read the whole bill yet, but I've pieced over this, and it seems that the definition of lynching is very vague. Very, very vague. It's not actually stringing somebody up and hanging somebody. And we'll talk just a bit about that, but let's read from the Disassociated Press. Before we do that, from the Disassociated Press, Biden signs bill making lynching a federal hate crime. From Darlene Superbill. Presidents typically say a few words before they turn legislation into law. But Biden flipped the script Tuesday when it came time to put his signature on the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act. He signed the bill at a desk in the White House Rose Garden, then he spoke. "All right, it's law," said the president, who was surrounded by Vice President Diversity Hire Harris, members of Congress, and top Justice Department officials. He was also joined by a descendant of Ida B. Wells, a black journalist who reported on lynchings, and Reverend Wheeler Parker, a cousin of Till. Biden said, It's a little unusual to do the bill signing, not say anything, and then speak, but that's how we set it up." He thanked the audience of civil rights leaders, Congressional Black Caucus members, and other guests who keep pushing the law for never giving up, never ever giving up. Congress first considered anti-lynching legislation more than 120 years ago. Until March of this year, it had failed to pass such legislation nearly 200 times, beginning with a bill introduced in 1900 by George Henry White, the only black member of Congress at the time. Harris was a prime sponsor of the bill when she was in the Senate. The Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act is named for a black teenager whose killing in Mississippi in the summer of 1955 became a galvanizing moment in the civil rights era. His grieving mother insisted on an open casket to show everyone how her son had been brutalized. And it's the thing, it was the Emmett Till story, because I didn't realize what this was. I've looked at this a little bit more. Now, when you hear lynching, you think that it's, somebody's about to get strung up by a noose and either dragged behind a horse or a truck in modern times, or just hung. But hung for the crime of only being black, as was the case in Emmett Till. But, with a little bit of paging through on this bill that I've done, and looking at what had happened and what they're describing with Emmett Till, it dawned on me yesterday what this is. This is a workaround for double jeopardy. I'm going to explain to you why. Now, this is supposed to be, when they say something like this is supposed to be, according to the sponsor of the bill, even though it's not written anywhere in the bill, this is supposed to be only if somebody goes out on a vigilante rampage and does the honk lynching in a vigilante manner. But that's not defined anywhere. This appears to be in a situation like possibly either the George Zimmerman case or the Breonna Taylor case. Now, these people have been investigated. They haven't been tried in the Breonna Taylor one, but George Zimmerman has been tried and found not guilty for whichever reasons that they have been on their state and local level. George Zimmerman can never be tried for murder again. He can never be tried, he can be tried for murder again if he murders somebody else, but he can never be tried for the murder of Trayvon Martin ever again. But you know what, and this is theoretically, they usually won't go back and retroactively prosecute somebody, although with this particular administration, I wouldn't put anything past them. But I'm just going to use that as an example. In spite of the fact that, no, they wouldn't go back and retroactively under 99% of cases, wouldn't go back and retroactively retry a case. But as an example, George Zimmerman can never be tried for the murder of Trayvon Martin ever again. He was acquitted. There was no mistrial. He's out the door. He's a free man. It was clear-cut self-defense. And I'm not going to use the Rittenhouse case because, of course, all of his victims were white. But what he can be tried for, and that's on every level. Like, they can't go back and push a federal crime against George Zimmerman ever again. But with this law in effect, now they can go and try him for lynching. If they were to retroactively go back and enforce this, they could drag him in front of a federal court and try him again. For political purposes, of course. But it wouldn't be for murder, it would be for lynching. When I realized that there were so many people out there who were decrying the Emmett Till thing for the fact that once he was acquitted, because there was a law in Mississippi at the time that black people couldn't serve on the jury, and he was acquitted because of that, and they later admitted to it, they couldn't retry him at a federal level. No, double jeopardy would apply. But when I read those words, that's when it dawned on me. No, this is This is a double jeopardy workaround. And I'm almost positive this is going to be used for political purposes. And when he comes back up and does a speech like this is the red meat. This is the distraction for the MAGA people who will come out and say, unfortunately, I got to pick on you, Spartan, for this one here because you said it in the chat as well. Well, this is just a pointless symbolic law so they can pander to more black people and win more black votes in the midterms. You know, and that's what I thought it was too at the beginning. But then, again, I looked deeper into this and realized what this actually is. And I'm willing to bet, because there were talks about this as well with Derek Chauvin. Because the prosecution chose such a weak case. And even if his appeal gets granted and overturned, again, I don't know if they would go back and retroactively apply this. But if this had been passed the first time this came through, when Kamala Harris was still in the Senate, if he had been acquitted in Minneapolis, they'd have drug his ass back out in front of the district court and tried him for lynching. You see what they're doing here? It's a constitutional workaround is what it is. And if this doesn't terrify you, then it should. Let's go a little bit more into this here with our friends over at NPR. Lynching is now a federal hate crime after a century of blocked efforts. Because murder was a crime. And hate crime was a crime. But now lynching, it's super secret, double illegal. This is from Eric McDaniel and Elena Moore, and remember, in order to tell you what it is that you're supposed to think about racism and racialism in this country, NPR needs your money. So make sure you hit that red donate button because your taxpayer dollars don't do enough to help them. So help them out, help them spread the ideas of how racist you really are around the country. NPR, never printing reality, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what they have to say. After multiple failed attempts across 12 decades, there's now a federal law that designates lynching as a hate crime. In a Tuesday ceremony at the White House, President Biden signed the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act into law. Racial hate isn't an old problem. It's a persistent problem, Biden said. Hate never goes away. It only hides under the rocks. If it gets a little bit of oxygen, it comes roaring back out, screaming. What stops it? All of us. I'm going to drop this down just a little bit more. Under the legislation, perpetrators can receive up to 30 years in prison when a conspiracy to commit a hate crime results in the death or serious bodily injury. Vice President Kamala Harris said that lynching is not a relic of the past. Racial acts of terror still occur in our nation. No, excuse me, I'm speaking. And when they do, we must all have the courage to name them and hold the perpetrators to account. Kamala is just laughing because she now has another chance to prosecute more people. And Kamala Harris has never met a person that she doesn't want to prosecute. The measure is named for Emmett Till, the 14-year-old boy who was abducted, tortured, and killed in 1955 after the black teenager was accused of whistling at and grabbing Carolyn Bryant, a white woman, while visiting relatives in Mississippi. Roy Bryant, Carolyn Bryant's husband, and J.W. Milam, Roy Bryant's half-brother, were tried for Emmett's murder and were quickly acquitted by an all-white jury. The men later admitted to the magazine interview to murdering Emmett. Carolyn Bryant told a historian 50 years after the crime that Emmett never had put his hands on her. So, and that, again, that's why I come back, oh, they admitted to it. There was no way to go back and try them at a federal level. Oh! Click. Reverend Wheeler Parker, the last living relative of Emmett's to witness his abduction, was at the signing ceremony. Now people can no longer get away with things that they got away with in the past, Wheeler told NBC News. He said the law gives power to the people who are seeking justice and trying to do the right thing. Passage of the bill marks a career-defining achievement for Illinois Democratic Rep. Bobby Rush. Sponsor of the legislation, he announced in January that he'll retire at the end of this Congress after 3 decades in office and a previous career as a civil rights activist. Rush said vividly he remembers being a young boy in the 50s and his mother gathering him and his 3 siblings around the dinner table and showing them the issue of Jet magazine that covered Emmett's lynching. And she pointed to the grotesque image of Emmett Till in the casket, and she said, "That's why I brought my boys out of Georgia, and I'll never forget that." So, that is what we see out of that. Thank you, NPR, for that. Let's listen to the House Plant Chief talk about what it is that he's done off of this. A little 10-second clip.
America and the world saw what she saw. Emmett Till was born nearly 40 years ago, after the first anti-lynching law was introduced. America and the world saw what she saw.
What she
Emmett
saw?
Till was born nearly 40 years ago.
Emmett Till was born nearly 40 years ago. Come on, man. If he was 14, hold on. Oh, no, that's what Town Hall is saying off of this. Till was born in 1941. I didn't read the caption. That's on me. Emmett, well, I mean, I guess it makes sense because Biden forgets what year it is sometimes. I think there are times out there where he still believes he's in the 60s. So, good job on that. From Axios, moving on, covering some other things. This is another thing that I think should terrify you. DOJ wants to hire 131 more lawyers to help with January 6 persecutions. I know that wasn't a slip of the tongue. I actually mean persecutions at this one. From Julia Shapiro. The Department of Justice wants to hire 131 more lawyers to help persecute cases related to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. It was a selfie vest. The DOJ is seeking $34.1 million for the effort, according to President Biden's budget request for next year, which was released on Monday. Honk, honk. What they're saying, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco said on Monday that the January 6th Selfie Fest investigation is among the most wide-ranging and most complex that this department has ever undertaken. She added, "Regardless of whatever resources we seek or get, let's be very clear, we're going to continue to do those cases. We're going to continue to hold those perpetrators accountable, no matter where the facts lead us. And, as the Attorney General has said, no matter what level, we will do the cases." The big picture. And Axios is going to leave a lot of stuff back out of here. The big picture, more than 770 people have been charged in persecutions related to this Selfie Fest, according to Business Insider. But what they won't tell you is that the majority of them have been charged with simple trespass. A lot of them, they tried to get, obstruction of a government official proceeding or various other high-end felonies like that. But most of them have been reduced once the evidence has been brought out, once they've actually seen what goes on, or what went on throughout all this, to simple misdemeanor trespass. But see, they won't tell you that because if it's 770 people, these are 770 evil Trump supporters, and Trump he tried to go in and hang Mike Pence, don't you know? But 131 more lawyers to help with the persecutions off of this. The DOJ is officially being used to go after political enemies. With this, it has become official. You're a political enemy of the Biden admin? You're officially an enemy of the state. And they will do everything they can to keep you silenced, to keep you from voting, to keep you from speaking out. So that's something that should terrify you. Terrifies me. And I wasn't even there. Here's the big panic attack story of the day. White House records turned over to House show 7-hour gap in Trump phone log on January 6th. Now, before we even read into this, my very first question about this, before we talk about literally anything else that goes along with this, is why? Why are we just hearing about this now? Over a year later. You would think with the expansive FBI investigation that Biden was so proud about, the fact that his DOJ went back and did, that we would know about this already. They're not exactly keen on keeping secrets. So I'm going to tell you right now, I get a very, very slight feeling that some of these records have been modified. But there again, I don't really trust anything that's coming out of the people who are on the January 6th committee, especially considering the fact that Kinzinger and Cheney are both on it. Trust me, you guys already know how I feel about neocon Republicans and how trustworthy they are. But let's read on. Internal White House records from the day of the attack on the U.S. Capitol that were turned over to the House Select Committee show a gap in President Trump's phone logs of 7 hours and 37 minutes, including the period when the building was being violently assaulted. According to documents obtained by CBS News' chief election campaign correspondent Bob Costa and the Washington Post associate editor Bob Woodward. There's that name again. So this is coming out, and we're being told about this. Not from the January 6th Selfie Fest Select Committee, not from the DOJ, not from the FBI, but from CBS and the Washington Post and Bob Woodward, who has, by the way, been at the center of everything that has been debunked about the January 6th Selfie Fest. I think Bob Costa has actually been in this too, so why, oh why, do we trust anything at face value that's coming straight out of Bob Woodward, who at the Washington Post has an axe to grind? The lack of an official White House notation of any calls placed to or by Trump for 457 minutes from 11:17 a.m. to 6:54 p.m. on January 6, 2021 means there is no record of the calls made by Trump as his supporters descended on the U.S. Capitol, battled overwhelmed police, and forcibly entered the building. Forcibly! Hey guys, just come on in. Forcibly! Prompting lawmakers and Vice President Mike Pence to flee for safety. The 11 pages of records, which, consistent with the President's official daily diary and the White House switchboard call log, were turned over by the National Archives earlier this year to the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Selfie Fest. The records show that Trump was active on the phone for part of the day, documenting conversations that he had with at least 8 people in the morning and 11 people that evening. The gap also stands in stark contrast to the extensive public reporting about phone conversations he had with allies during the attack. The chairman of the Select Committee, Benny Thompson, Democrat of Mississippi, called the reported gap in the log concerning. Obviously, there is not a second in the day where the President of the United States is not on record somewhere, Thompson told CBS News on Tuesday after a White House bill signing event. He said the committee would see if we can piece it together. Having a record of what the President was doing on the day is absolutely vital to the work of the committee, Thompson added. Thompson also said the committee does not yet have the evidence that there were calls the President had made or received in that time period, but if the Capitol Police if the capital of the U.S. is being overrun, somebody made some calls and we just have to find them. You bring me the man and I'll find you the crime. The House panel is now investigating whether Trump communicated that day through back channels, phones of aides, or personal disposable phones known as burner phones. Are you fucking kidding me? This is a U.S. government function. Not a bad teen spy novel from the 90s. According to two people with knowledge of the probe, who, like others interviewed for this report, spoke on the condition of anonymity because, of course, to discuss sensitive information. The committee is also scrutinizing whether it received the full log from that day. I'm scrutinizing whether or not this is actually a story, because I don't think that this is. The records show that former White House chief strategist Stephen Bannon, who said on his January 5th podcast that all hell is going to break loose tomorrow, spoke with Trump twice on January 6th. So, you are once again going to have to show me evidence that this was plotted and planned. I also want to look at the times. 11:17 a.m. to 6:54 p.m., and those times are Eastern, of course. Well, at least part of that, he was in the middle of making a speech. And yes, there are some of these points that could be classified as well. But this is nothing. Again, this is political persecution or political ideological differences. Nothing more, nothing less. All right, from the Daily Wire. This was interesting. This popped up this morning. I'm kind of glad that the power did go up because I would not have seen this otherwise. I would have just closed out the Daily Wire and not refreshed it and looked it over. But from the Daily Wire, Fed's prepared to make disclosure about Ray Epps, court docs say. From Ryan Saavedra. The Biden admin is reportedly preparing to release more information about Ray Epps, a man who's been accused of being a Fed during the January 6th selfie fest that broke out at the U.S. Capitol. Assistant U.S. Attorney Karen Rockland said in court Tuesday that she intended to provide a disclosure about Epps, a former Oath Keeper. Of course he was a former Oath Keeper! In response to requests by January 6 defendants accused of leading the breach of the police lines, including Ryan Samsel, who briefly huddled with Epps before charging the barricades. Oh, he briefly huddled with him, you say? Politico reported. Epps, who was seen on video on January 5th, 2021, urging Trump supporters, "Go in the Capitol!" adding that they should be peaceful, but we have to go inside, don't you know? Well, our voices will never be heard if we don't go inside. Became the focus of conspiracy theories pushed by right-wing media outlets. Epps, they noted, was not arrested despite being towards the front of the riotous crowd, the report added. Although his face initially appeared on the list of unidentified suspects, it was removed months after the breach that led to unsupported claims that Epps was a government informant. Yes, unsupported. Ted Cruz grilled Jill Sanborn, Executive Assistant Director for the FBI's National Security Branch, about Epps during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing back in January titled The Domestic Terrorism Threat, 1 year after the selfie fest. Sanborn repeatedly refused to answer Cruz's question about whether the FBI agents or confidential informants participated during the selfie fest. Miss Sanborn, was Ray Epps a Fed? Sir, I cannot answer that question. So, for those people who believe that this is going to be the big revelation that Ray Epps was the federal agent, or for those people on the other side of the aisle who believe this is going to be the revelation that Ray Epps did nothing wrong, but he was an evil Trump supporter right from the beginning, I'm going to tell you what this is going to be. Over the past few months, the FBI, and with help from the CIA, have been going through Epps' record, scrubbing it, cleaning it, moving things around, adding things to support their narrative, and explain any gaps into why it was that he wasn't arrested, and what he's been doing for the past few years. so they can come out and give the sanitized version of Ray Epps, so that you don't ask any more questions, you fucking bigot. That's what's going to happen. They do this all the fucking time. From the New York Post. Trump asked Putin to release info on Hunter Biden business deal, from Mark Lungariello. This is about the most misleading and misinformed headline in the nation. I mean, this headline is so much misinformation. I might get shut down on YouTube for this. Oh, wait, no. This is against the evil orange man, so I'll never get shut down for that. From Mark Lungariello. Former President Trump said Russian leader Vladimir Putin should release information on an alleged business deal involving Hunter, President Biden's embattled son. In a new interview on Tuesday, Trump discussed an alleged $3.5 million wire transfer from Russian billionaire Elena Baturina to Hunter Biden's investment firm that was outlined in a report by Senate Republicans made public ahead of the 2020 election. So now, I would think Putin would know the answer to that, Trump said on Just the News, airing on Real America's Voice Network. I think he should release it. I think we should know the answer, okay? Really? So, headline. Trump asked Putin to release info on Hunter Biden business deal. Story. Trump flies a suggestion on a low-rated Missing Link Media website. Interview. You see the disconnect between these two things? Like, if you read this, and I'm sure, actually, I have seen a lot of leftoids come back out and say this. That's one of the trends that's going on right now. If you listen to them and only read what the leftoids on Twitter are saying right now, it's not that he said this on an interview. It's the fact that he picked up the phone and said, "Oh, okay, Vlad, you know that information you have on Hunter? I think you should release that right now, okay? No, it's me, your buddy, Donald, okay?" That's what they believe actually happened. Hunter Biden is facing a federal tax probe with a grand jury convened in Delaware. On Monday, it was revealed that Hunter received a $142,000 plug-in hybrid sports car from a Kazakhstani banking oligarch. In 2014, his infamous laptop was entered into congressional record on Tuesday. I'll be talking about that in just a second. Trump's comments on Putin came as the Russian president has been sanctioned and ostracized by the West for his continued assault on Ukraine. In a clip of the interview, Trump references Baturina, the widow of former Moscow Mayor Yuri Luzkov. So, again, this is nothing. This is literally nothing. Alright, let's talk about some other local things and local laws. A bill that would have required employees of California businesses to be vaccinated is halted by its author. This is from ABC 10 out of Sacramento. From Morgan Reiner. Assembly Bill 1993, which would require all California businesses to require their employees and independent contractors to receive the holy jab, is being halted by the author, Assemblymember Buffy Wicks said on Tuesday afternoon. In a thread on social media, Wicks said, "Our priority during this pandemic has been to make sure all Californians are as safe as possible, honk honk, by following the data and science around public health, which is why California continues to have some of the lowest pinko pox case rates, deaths and injuries per capita, with books that we're totally not cooking." She said that she introduced Assembly Bill 1993 because of the workers, employers, and public health experts who expressed the need for vaccine requirements, yet felt unable to make these changes on their own. We're now in a new and welcome chapter in this pandemic, with the virus receding for the moment. This provides us with the opportunity to work more collaboratively with labor and employers to address concerns raised by the bill, she said. I'm willing to bet the undocumented immigrants that work for these companies don't have to comply by this. She's putting the bill on pause for now to allow space for these conversations to continue and progress. While I'm disappointed in the opposition to our bill by public safety unions, it is my hope that they'll ultimately come to the table and make sure all their workers are vaccinated and that every job sector in California has the tools necessary to keep their workers safe from the pinko fucking pox, she said. So that one's probably dead because it's probably very politically inconvenient at this point. Here is the bill itself, California legislative information. We're just going to read some of this here. The people of the state of California do enact as follows. Section 1, Section 12940.4 is added to the government code to read. Notwithstanding any provision of this chapter or any other law, an employer shall require each employer, independent contractor, provide proof to the employer or an authorized agent thereof that the person has been vaccinated against the pinko fucking pox. For purposes of this section, the following definitions apply. Proof means valid documentation of the person's holy jab record, which may be their jab card or copy of digital version thereof, as provided by the healthcare provider, the State Department of Public Health, or another state or federal agency. Jabbed against and therefore baptized for the religion of wokeness means that the person is fully jabbed against the pinko pox by a jab authorized by the US FDA and the World Health Organization. Notwithstanding subparagraph A, the person is considered vaccinated against the pinko pox for purposes of this section if the person has received the first dose of the 2-dose holy jab vaccine authorized by the US FDA, and the World Health Organization provides proof of that first holy jab and provides proof of receiving the second dose of the vaccine within 45 days after receiving the first dose. And it goes on. This is a short bill. This is the actual text of this is probably 1 page, maybe 2 pages. So I can go ahead and put this up in the Discord and the Gilded if you guys want to go and read it. But this one has fallen flat. All right. Here's an op-ed from NBC. Florida's anti-gay bill is wrong. It's also unconstitutional. That's because they're trying to tell you that something is in this thing that isn't actually in this thing. From Daniel Putnam, Furman Scholar at the New York University of Law. On Monday, Ron DeSantis signed into law the Parental Rights and Education Bill, dubbed the Don't Say Gay Bill by its critics. HB 1557 contains a crucial provision that seems harmless on its face, but undermines the fundamental free speech and due process rights of Florida teachers, students, and families. The provision reads, classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties in sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in a kindergarten through grade 3 or in a manner that's not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. Parents may enforce this provision by suing the school district for injunctive relief, damages, and attorney's fees. Let's take this provision part. First, it bars classroom instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity and K through 3 classrooms. Second, this provision bars classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate without limitation with respect to grade level. Moreover, each of these prohibitions applies to both school personnel and unspecified third parties. On its face, these requirements may seem innocuous. After all, many people might feel that some discomfort at the thought of kindergartens receiving instruction on sexual orientation, and who could argue against prohibiting instruction on sexuality, or any topic for that matter, that isn't age-appropriate or developmentally appropriate. Well, there are a lot of people who are doing that right now. However, a moment's reflection reveals just how vague these prohibitions are. Nowhere does HB 1557 define its operative terms, instruction on sexual orientation, on gender identity, appropriate, or third parties. And this is what they're trying to fucking panic you into. Now, they can't put this as an actual article because this is blatantly false on its face. For example, if a teacher who happens to be gay mentions her wife by name when describing what she did with her family over winter break, thereby expressing the fact that she's married to a woman, does that count as instructing students on sexual orientation? No. And by the way, there actually might be some stupid fucking sue-happy parent that tries to bring this forward because of that. And this is one of the things that really gets me that people don't seem to understand. And this goes the same thing with the Texas law. The lawsuit for people who are directly aggrieved or indirectly aggrieved. Anybody can bring forward a lawsuit on abortion in Texas. This law, number one, this actually does include people who are directly aggrieved. Rather than just anybody be able to come forward. Anybody off the street say, oh, well, this person said gay in a classroom. Well, then it's time to come back out here and put the lawsuit up because I have no kids. I'm 22 years old. I have no kids in the school system, but I heard about this and I'm going to sue this person. No, that's not how this works in Florida like it does in Texas. But furthermore, you've still got to have a judge that's willing to take up the case. You can file the suit under the statute, but there is nothing in this bill that requires a judge to take up the case. And if it's something like the non sequitur that this person reads out, I think most judges in Florida would laugh that shit right out of the fucking court. What if a teacher, gay or straight, assigns a math problem that mentions Sally has 2 moms? I have never once done a word problem that involves how many parents a person has. For that matter, and I've actually argued against this one over on Twitter. For that matter, if a second grader with 2 dads draws a picture of her family and shares it with her classmates, does that constitute a third party providing the verboten instruction? No! That does not. And again, if you try to bring this in front of a court, the judge is going to laugh your ass out of the court and tell you to get the fuck out of his courtroom. Once again, because this is a privately enforced law, you still have to be able to find a judge that'll take it up. And in most cases, with these outlier cases that are going to be out there, they're taking the focus off of the people who are actually trying to teach. Well, little Sally, you're 6 years old, but you can be transgender. You can be a little Billy if you want to. They're leaving these cases out there and putting these niche cases on the outset off of this to try to distract you from the fact that this other shit is actually happening. All right, let's keep going. So this teacher got on MSDNC, and we'll talk about this from the Blaze in just a second, but Mary Margaret Olahan, who is blue-checked because she's a reporter at the Daily Wire, teacher on MSNBC worries that he can't discuss his love life with his kindergartners anymore. It's scared. Well, we can listen to him because I don't want to quote him off of that because I'll probably get popped for hate speech. But again, I knew nothing about the love life of my teachers except for, and I mentioned this on Twitter, when I was in 7th grade, and it was actually happening when I was in 6th grade too, the 7th grade English teacher was dating the 6th grade history teacher. They never expressly said it, but you could tell by the way that they interacted with each other in the halls. And then of course, by the time my sister was in middle school, that same 7th grade English teacher had married the 6th grade English teacher instead. Because I remember my sister saying, well, mentioning her with a different last name, I'm like, who the hell is this? What is she new? Like, oh no, this is so-and-so. I'm like, oh, okay. Who did she marry? Oh, that's who she married. Okay. I know who that is. I'm caught up. Because the 6th grade English teacher at the time had a very, very common last name in the town that I grew up in. So it didn't necessarily have to be him. It could have literally been anybody. But that's like the extent in my entire high school of my knowledge of the intimate lives of my teachers. But let's listen to what this guy's got to say.
Yeah, it's twofold. It really hits hard in my heart professionally and personally, both. Professionally, it truly makes me feel like I am not trusted as a professional. I know my kindergarten standards through and through, and nowhere in our curriculum does it have anything about teaching sexual orientation or sexual identity. So for them to say that's happening, it's kind of crazy. But we should be able to have discussions, and that's what we're encouraged to do in kindergarten. And then personally, because my kids do have questions. They want to know who my partner is in pictures outside of my classroom, and I should be able to speak to that.
So do you worry that you won't even be able to talk about your own personal home life? I mean, I have a child in kindergarten right now. I know exactly that my child has 2 teachers, one of which has a daughter at home and is single. The other is married and has 4 children. I know everything about their lives because my kid tells me.
Absolutely. You are 100% correct. That's what we do as educators. We build relationships with our kids. And in order to build relationships, you talk about your home life. You talk about what you do on the weekends. That's building community. It scares me to death that I am not going to be able to have these conversations with my children because they're going to ask me what I did on the weekend. I don't want to have to hide that my partner and I went paddleboarding this weekend because then they ask, well, what does partner mean, Mr. Bernard? And, I'm worried. Can I tell them what it means? I'm also worried for my kids. I have a little girl this year who has 2 moms, and the kids are curious about her 2 moms. They want to know about her 2 moms. If they go to her and ask her about her 2 moms and she doesn't know what to say, they're going to come to me and ask me. And then, so what do I do? It opens up for parents to really take some legal action against the schools and teachers. And
So I'm going to address what it is. Well, I'm terrified because I don't want to be able to come in and say my partner and I went paddleboarding over the weekend, and now I have to go. And the kids are going to say, well, Mr. whatever the fuck his name is, what does partner mean? That's fine. Tell your kids about the fact that you went paddleboarding. That's fine. But that doesn't mean that you have to go back and tell them about who is the pitcher and who is the fucking receiver. Which I think is kind of obvious after listening to this speech, but that's beside the point. Let's read from The Blaze on this particular video. Gay kindergarten teacher in Florida law regarding the parental rights. It scares me to death that I won't be able to talk about my partner to my students. From Dave Urbanski. A gay kindergarten teacher in Florida says, it scares me to death that he won't be able to talk about his students about his partner due to parental rights in education bill Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law on Monday. The law, which the left-wing pro-LGBTQ types have falsely referred to as the Don't Say Gay bill, prohibits classroom instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity in grades K through 3, and it doesn't use the word gay or prevent its use. It really hits hard professionally and personally, the teacher, Corey Bernhardt, said in an interview MSDNC posted Tuesday. He added that, it truly makes me feel like I'm not trusted as a professional. I know that my kindergarten standard is through and through, and nowhere in our curriculum does it say anything about teaching sexual orientation or sexual identity. So for them to say it's happening, it's kind of crazy. Right, it's not in the curriculum, but we saw, what was it, Mixed K, that thing that we saw on TikTok, Libs of TikTok, over and over again, coming out here and admitting to the fact that, yes, she is doing this. She is advising kids on how to be transgender and trying to keep it from their parents. She's bragging about it. Bernhardt, who teaches at, I'm not going to dox, who spoke about the issue on local media earlier this month, added that, to MSDNC that we should be able to have discussion and that we're encouraged to do in kindergarten. He added, my kids do have questions. They want to know who my partner is in the pictures outside the classroom, and I should be able to speak to them. Again, if you're concerned about it, yeah, talk about the paddleboarding trip. But it doesn't mean that you have to tell them, as I said, who's the pitcher and who's the catcher. From Politico, DeSantis says Disney crossed the line in calling for Don't Say Gay repeal. From David Chiara. Governor Ron DeSantis on Tuesday lashed out at the Walt Disney Company and California corporate executives after the company said Florida's parental rights and education bill, dubbed the Don't Say Gay by its opponents, should be repealed. DeSantis, a Republican who signed the bill into law on Monday, was reacting to a tweet from Disney calling up the state legislature to repeal the law or for the courts to strike it down. I think they crossed the line, he said during a press conference at the state capitol. We're going to make sure that we're fighting back when people are threatening our parents and threatening our kids. DeSantis has been openly feuding with Disney and CEO Bob Chapek since the Florida legislature approved the law, which prohibits teachers from leading classroom lessons on gender identity and sexual orientation for students in kindergarten through third grade. Critics of the measure say the legislation represents a broad attack against the LGBTQIARMP plus 271IAG community and will lead young people to be marginalized, bullies, and possibly commit suicide. Because they haven't read the bill. Chapek, who had remained silent on the bill in the weeks leading up to its passage, had come under heavy criticism from employees and others in the entertainment industry for not taking a stand against the bill. Chapek publicly condemned the measure, but only after the GOP-led Florida legislature approved it in early March. The California-based entertainment giant, which has more than 70,000 employees in Florida and a flagship amusement park in Orlando, later escalated the conflict when it announced that it would halt all donations to political campaigns in Florida over the parental rights and education bill. You're going to be sorry. The company gave a little under $5 million to Florida candidates during the 2020 cycle. But on Tuesday, State Rep Joe Harding, a Republican lawmaker who sponsored the measure, said in a statement that he's returning all political contributions he received from Disney and its affiliates. A lot of people are coming out and saying that Florida needs Disney more than Disney needs Florida. I'm going to push back on that, and KTZed actually made a very good point about that, of the fact of there is probably a level of mutuality to that. Both of them are helping each other mutually, but I'm going to be completely honest with you and tell you that Disney would ultimately wind up being the major loser in this, not Florida. Because there are not very many places where you can have year-round entertainment in this country, especially on the East Coast. By the time you get up to Georgia, you have an actual winter again. There is no place else on the East Coast that I know of, outside of Florida, that you can have year-round entertainment at an amusement park without it being indoors. Number two, we have a lot of transportation technology in this country. And I'm going to push back on Katie too, because it is entirely possible for them to pick up and move the Epcot Center. But it is going to take a lot of resources and money to do it. Katie said it was impossible. I don't think it's impossible, but it's going to take a lot of resources to do. That might bankrupt Disney to go back and try to move the Epcot Center. If not, put at least a significant dent in the empire that they've built. So, the political campaigners kind of have Disney by the balls at this one. But yes, if that industry, if they do spend the money and take everything back up out of Florida, it is going to massively hurt Florida's economy to do so. I hate to tell the people that are, pro Disney off of, anti-Disney off of this. It is going to hurt Florida's economy if Disney moves out. Plain and simple. But it's going to hurt Disney more. So that's what we see off of that. All right, more stuff about Don't Say Gay. Let's listen to Ron Perlman.
Good morning, Governor DeSantis. Ron here. Don't say gay. Don't say as the first two words in a sentence spoken by a political leader of a state in the United States of America. Don't say. Don't fucking say, you fucking Nazi pig. Say. First Amendment. Read about it. Then run for office. You piece of shit.
So let's actually think about this and ask the question: what is the actual last significant thing that Ron Perlman has had to say? Because this is obviously he hasn't read the bill, because the word "gay" is not anywhere in the bill, or the law now, I should say. But really, realistically, significantly, what's the last significant thing Ron Perlman has had to say? Wow, there are too many Rons in this. Let's throw Ron Helton into the mix too. I think I found it. I think I know what the last one is. We're gonna get copyright hit for this, and I don't care. Yeah, it's audio only because I don't want to get video pop for this.
War never changes. When atomic fire consumed the Earth, those who survived did so in great underground vaults. When they opened, their inhabitants set out across the ruins of the old world to build new societies, establishing villages, forming tribes. As decades passed, what had been the American Southwest united beneath the flag of the new California Republic, dedicated to old world values of democracy and the rule of law. As the Republic grew, so did its needs. Scouts spread east, seeking territory and wealth, dry and merciless expanse of the Mojave Desert. There are tales of a city untouched by the warheads that had scorched the world, and a great wall spanning the Colorado River. The NCR mobilized its army and sent it east to occupy Hoover Dam and restore it to working condition. But across the Colorado, another society had arisen under a different flag. A vast army of slaves forged from the conquest of 86 tribes, Caesar's Legion.
So that was the last significant thing that Ron Perlman actually had to say. And I say that because I actually don't know if he was the one that did the speech for Fallout 4. And ironically enough, the story that he just told there is just as fictional as the story that he told in this video. Exactly as fictional. And we have this teacher who is basically telling you that she's still going to say gay. Florida elementary school teacher says she will still hold back information from students' parents about them coming out. Which, that's a crime. Well, not a crime. It's just a civil suit. So let's listen to what she has to say. Thank you, Libs of TikTok.
I just want to go ahead and state that I would rather lose my job than out one of my students to their families. Being a safe person and a safe place for kids that don't have that at home is one of the best parts of being a teacher. So yeah, I'm not doing it. I don't know. Fire me, sue me, take me to jail. I'm not doing it.
Well, it's a civil suit. You wouldn't go to jail. You would probably lose your job because the district would get sued, but... From the New York Post. We got some more stuff to still go over. We haven't even touched the Ukraine stuff, which is crazy in and of itself. But we are running out of time because I think for the most part we do have to talk more about what's going on in our country than what's going on in another country at this point. So let's get through some more of this here. From the New York Post, Hunter Biden laptop material entered into congressional record from Samuel Chamberlain and Bruce Golding. Let's throw some music back up here. It's now an official matter of record. Material from Hunter Biden's infamous laptop was entered into the congressional record on Tuesday at the request of Representative Matt Gaetz. The Florida Republican made the move during a hearing on oversight of the FBI Cybersecurity Division after its Assistant Director Brian Warndran testified that he didn't have any information about the Hunter laptop, which the Bureau seized from a Delaware repair shop in December of 2019. House Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler initially blocked Gaetz' request, but relented a short time later. Nadler's change of heart came after what Gaetz described as a consultation with the majority staff. I seek unanimous consent entered into the record of this committee, content from files, and copies from Hunter Biden laptop, Gaetz said. Nadler responded, without objection. Gaetz celebrated by posting a video clip of the exchange on Twitter. He wrote, "Subpoena Hunter Biden!" It's unclear if the material entered for the record includes many sexually explicit photos and videos stored in the laptop, and a Gaetz spokesperson did not respond to an email inquiry. Lowered images include raunchy 12-minute clip video that appears to show President Biden's son smoking crack while engaged in sex acts with an unidentified woman. Earlier, Gaetz held up what appeared to be a small external hard drive as well. He said, I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record of this committee the contents of Hunter Biden laptop which I'm in possession of. At that time, Nadler said, I'm not, and paused conferred with an aide, during which another lawmaker said, there's no objection to that. Nadler then announced, I will object pending further investigation. What's the basis of that objection? Gaetz shot back. It's a unanimous consent request and I object pending further investigation, Nadler said. It may very well be entered into the record after we have a chance to look at it further. Gaetz, who's under investigation for the alleged sex trafficking of a 17-year-old, which he's denied as a witch hunt, then asked for and got permission to enter the record copy of the receipt issued by the repair shop where the MacBook Pro computer was dropped off in April of 2019. The shop's owner, John Paul MacIsaac, is legally blind and said he can't identify whoever left the water-damaged laptop with him and never retrieved it. MacIsaac later turned over its contents to the former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who arranged to share them with the Post in October of 2020, leading to a blockbuster series of exclusive reports. In an appearance last year on CBS's Sunday Morning, Hunter said the laptop left at the shop certainly may have been his, saying that there could be a laptop out there that was stolen from me. It could be that I was hacked. It could be it was Russian intelligence. Yeah, regardless. It's there. Everybody knows what your business dealings are, and now it's a part of the record. From the Daily Mail. Embarrassing moments of FBI cyber chief admits not knowing what the agency has done with the Hunter Biden sealed laptop as Florida Republican Matt Gaetz whips out a copy of the hard drive and has admitted it into Congress as evidence. From Elizabeth Elkin, politics reporter for DailyMail.com. Matt Gaetz got into a heated spat over the whereabouts of Hunter Biden's laptop during a House Judiciary hearing on oversight of the FBI Cyber Division on Tuesday. The Republican firebrand used his allotted time to grill the division's assistant director, Brian Warndran, who repeatedly told Gaetz he didn't have any information on where the hard drive belonging to the president's son is currently located. At one point, Gaetz tried to enter the hard drive into the congressional record, but was blocked by Jerry Nadler, who changed his mind a short while later. Sir, I'm not here to talk about the laptop. I'm here to talk about the FBI cyber program, Wondren told Gates after the lawmaker asked where it was. The congressman, visibly irritated, tries again. You're the assistant director at the FBI cyber. I want to know where Hunter's laptop is. Where is it? The FBI official replied, Sir, I don't know that answer. Gates called Wondren's claim astonishing. Has the FBI cyber assessed whether Hunter's laptop could be a point of vulnerability, allowing America's enemies to hurt our country? The lawmaker asked. I think we can listen to some of this here. Let's listen to it. Can't get to all of it because we're up on the clock, but let's listen to some of this here.
So where is it? The laptop.
Sir, I'm not here to talk about the laptop. I'm here to talk about the FBI cyber program.
You are the assistant director of FBI cyber. I want to know where Hunter Biden's laptop is. Where is it?
Sir, I don't know that answer.
That is astonishing to me. Has FBI cyber assessed whether or not Hunter Biden's laptop could be a point of vulnerability, allowing America's enemies to hurt our country?
Sir, the FBI cyber program is based off of what's codified in Title 18, Title 18, Section 1030, a code which talks about computer intrusions, right, using nefarious intent network.
Well, you've talked about passwords here. I mean, Hunter Biden's password on his laptop was Hunter02. He drops it off at a repair store. I'm holding the receipt from Max Computer Repair, where in December 2019, they turned over this laptop to the FBI, and what now you're telling me right here is that as the assistant director of FBI cyber, you don't know where this is after it was turned over to you 3 years ago.
Yes, sir, that's an accurate statement.
How are Americans supposed to trust that you can protect us from the next colonial pipeline if it seems that you can't locate a laptop that was given to you 3 years ago from the first family, potentially creating vulnerabilities for our country?
Sir, it's not in the purview of my investigative responsibilities.
But that is shocking that you wouldn't, as the assistant director of cyber, know whether or not there are international business deals, kickbacks, shakedowns that are on this laptop that would make the first family suspect to some sort of compromise. Mr. Assistant Director, have you assessed whether or not the first family is compromised as a result of the Hunter Biden laptop?
Sir, as a representative of the FBI cyber program, it is not in the realm of my responsibilities to deal with the questions that you're asking me.
Well, you're the assistant director, so you possibly should. And yes, you should be looking into, because this is a part of the first family, why Matt Gaetz can go get this, as was mentioned in the chat, so easily from CrowdStrike. But that's what we say after that. More Matt Gaetz news. Gaetz pushes to strip security clearances from Intel officials who dismissed Hunter Biden laptop story. From Ryan Saavedra. Matt Gaetz introduced legislation on Tuesday dubbed the Spook Who Cried Wolf resolution to bar security clearance for 51 intelligence officials, which I thought they were all retired, so I didn't know if they still had security clearance, who signed onto a letter in the fall of 2020 claiming this story about Hunter's laptop was a part of a Russian disinformation operation. Gaetz sent a press release in October 19th of 2020. 51 former intelligence officials signed a letter titled Public Statement on the Hunter Emails, which claimed Hunter's emails were a part of a Russian information operation. Following the censorship of the New York Post expose on the emails by big tech and media tycoons, the New York Times, a former newspaper, confirmed the legitimacy of the emails on March 17th of 2022. As of March 22nd, 2022, 4 of the 51 signatories maintained their support for the erroneous letter. The 51 signatories of the letter who publicly and falsely decried Hunter Biden's laptop to be Russian disinformation should be barred from holding any level of security clearances indefinitely, Gaetz' resolution states. Which again, I was to the understanding that they were all retired, but that may be it. Clapper, former director of national intelligence, Mike Hayden, former director of CIA, Leon Panetta, former CIA director, John Brennan, former CIA director, Thomas Finger, former National Intelligence Director for Analysis, Rick Leggett, former Deputy Director, NSA, John McLaughlin, former Acting Director, CIA, Yeah, I'm not going to read all these names, but I mean, it's former, and there are a couple in here. Senior Operations Officer, CIA. Technical Operations Officer, CIA. So there are a few people on here that would actually be hurt by this, but for the most part, this is all retirees. Should they? It's possible. I could see that because they are compromised in a political manner. Is it going to happen? Probably not. Ron Filipkowski, we watched this video already. This is part of the Daily Mail video we watched. We'll skip this one. All right. From the Daily Wire, AOC Biscuit issues major warning to Democrats ahead of the 2022 midterms. From Ryan Saavedra, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Chavez, D-Twitch, said during an interview this week that Democrats need to be concerned about not only losing independent voters in the upcoming midterms, but also losing the base of the Democratic Party, puppy. Chavez made the remarks in an interview with the New York Magazine, the discussion which included Seabiscuit's claim that the senior members of Congress who have been around in difficult political times want to work in a buddy-buddy and backslapping political system where we'll cut the deal and go to a room with some bourbon and some smoke and you'll come out and work something out, okay, puppy? I think there's a real nostalgia and belief that the time still exists so that we can get back to that, she claimed. We need to acknowledge that this isn't just about middle of the road, an increasingly narrow band of independent voters. This is really about the collapse of support among young people, puppy, among the Democratic base, who are feeling that they've worked overtime to get this president elected and aren't necessarily being seen. Of course, there's no video of her saying this, but yeah, she's in a panic right now because, well, she is in a very, 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 very safe district and there's no chance of her ever leaving power again. Being relegated to the minority for a very long time is terrifying to her. And I'm happy to see it. From The Blaze, new poll finds more Americans blame Biden for inflation than the pandemic, corporate greed, or Putin's invasion. Because they're smart. From Carlos Garcia. Recent polling shows that very few Americans are buying the excuses the Brandon admin is making for the high inflation and instead blame the president and his politics. The NBC News poll asked Americans who they thought was to blame for the high inflation that they're suffering under and offered some of the culprits blamed by the president and his supporters as possible answers. Among the options listed, Biden and his policies were blamed by a plurality of Americans polled at 38%. Only 28% blamed the pinko pox pandemic, another 23% blamed corporations raising prices, and barely 6% blamed Russian President Vladimir Putin and his invasion of Ukraine. Over recent months, the Brandon admin has attempted to blame the invasion of Ukraine, the greed of meat conglomerates, and the pandemic for high inflation, eating away at American savings and wages. The same poll found the president's approval rating to drop 40%, while the astounding 55% disapprove of the job Biden is doing. When asked about the economy, only 33% say they approved of the job that he's doing, while 63% say they don't approve of the job that Biden is doing. Which is all well and good, but the big thing that I have to wonder about this and see where this goes is how does this shake out to the people who are actually making the laws? Now, Biden makes a very good lightning rod. He does. Taking a lot of the blame off of Congress. Will this carry over to them? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I know that if an election was held tomorrow, Biden's sorry ass would be fucking packing for a presidential capacity. As far as the midterms, I don't know, because a lot of people still to this day don't know who their local representative is. And that is something that we need to get out changed. Local reps, aldermen, congressional reps, senators, those are the people you need to pay attention to, not the president. So that is what we watched there. From... this one was funny. Dan Bowen tweets out, I don't want Elon Musk or any other billionaire spending a dime more on taxes until the federal government can give me a valid reason why. In the past 20 years, our spending has increased by 310%, when our population increased by only 16%. And Bridget, here's another. Try to keep up, Dan. The top 1% are so rich they could pay off $29+ trillion national debt, 31 trillion by the way, and still retain about 11.29 trillion more wealth than the entire bottom 50% of American families. Tax the 1%. Source, Federal Reserve. Okay, and I talked about this. I went back and said, what do you think would happen if $31 trillion of hard assets were attempted to be cashed out immediately? I know the mainstream media has made you believe that all these people have a Scrooge McDuck money bin, but realistically, they have to sell their assets to get any cash whatsoever. A sell-off of that magnitude would plunge the value of items, all lower-level items, and stocks into dust, destroying the economy and the currency, and that's assuming you can even find someone to buy all those assets, which involves having the cash on hand to do so. Jeff Bezos goes out, and I'm going to use this as a for instance. I know he has a yacht. I don't know how much it's actually valued at, but let's just use a for instance. Let's do a hypothetical here. Jeff Bezos goes out and buys an $11 billion yacht, puts on a pirate hat and goes and sails the seven seas. And then they decide that they need to tax him for $11 billion. Well, shit, he needs $11 billion of cash on hand. He doesn't actually have $11 billion of cash on hand. In order to get that yacht, he probably sold a few other assets, maybe a building or some stock, and went out and bought his yacht and went sailing around the seven fucking seas. Now he needs those $11 billion. So he needs to turn around and sell that yacht, valued at $11 billion, and hope that somebody will come back and buy that. And the first thing that he needs to do is find somebody who has $11 billion fucking dollars to go and buy it from him so he can have the cash on hand to go and pay the tax. But realistically, he will probably, at the end of it, especially given the fact that it's used, probably only get like $8 billion out of it. And again, that's assuming he can find someone who has the cash on hand to go buy the $8 billion for the yacht. These people have no idea how wealth and assets work. These billionaires that they keep coming out and decrying don't keep cash on hand. You know why? Because the cash lost 7.9% of its value over the last year. So they're going to buy something that appreciates in value. Property, buildings, homes, stock. That's what it's going to be in. You know what happens if you sell $11 billion worth of stock at once? Ask Elon Musk what happened to Tesla in October of last year when he sold $10 billion worth of stock instantly. The stock price dropped. These people have no idea. But they keep pretending that they do. And the last one that we're going to do here before we do something that I am thankful for and head on out of here for the day. From The Blaze, Manchin comes out against Biden's proposal that involves taxing the unrealized gains of the wealthy. Because it's a way to throw the market into a tailspin. And he knows it. From Alex Nitzberg. President Biden's fiscal year 2023 budget proposal includes a minimum 20% tax on wealthy individuals, but the plan would allow for the taxation of unrealized gains, a move that Democrat Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia says that he opposes. Well, yes, if you are going to lose, 20% on your assets every year? Unrealized gains, 20% of what it goes up? Why the fuck would you keep that asset around? You can't tax something that's not earned. Earned income is what we're based on, Manchin told The Hill. There's other ways to do it. Everybody has to pay their fair share, that's for sure, but unrealized gains is not the way to do it, as far as I'm concerned, he said, according to the outlet. First and foremost, because this will throw the markets in a tailspin, but second, unrealized gains, that'll hit you and me. Well, not me, because I still rent, unfortunately. But those of you out here in the audience who own your property that goes up in value every year, guess who gets a tax for the unrealized gains for that? It's not just the billionaires. When they do a tax for unrealized gains, that's for all of you. Biden's proposal would apply to the wealthiest individuals, those worth more than $100 million. The tax code currently offers special treatment for the types of income that wealthy people enjoy. This special treatment, combined with sophisticated tax planning and giant loopholes, allow many of the very wealthiest people in the world to end up paying a lower tax rate on their full income. No, it does not. Somebody's never paid a capital gains tax, and it shows. Then many middle-class households, according to the budget proposal, to finally address the glaring problem. The budget includes a 20% minimum tax on the multimillionaires and billionaires who often pay indefensibly low tax rates. This minimum tax would apply only to the wealthiest 0.01% of households, those with more than $100 million, and over half the revenue would come from billionaires alone. Wrong! Manchin has previously been an obstacle to Democrats on other issues last year when he said that he would not support passing the Build Back Bullshit proposal, a massive spending plan that lacked GOP support. They're out to destroy the economy. They sure are. And they don't know it. I actually do think that they believe that they're trying to help. And with that, we're going to head out of here for the day. But before we do, as we always do on Wednesday, we sit back and we talk about something that either restores my faith in humanity or something that I'm really thankful for. And I did give this some thought, and there's not going to be any daily ignoramus today, but I've been just really thinking about some of the changes that have come into my life since I turned on the webcam and started on the YouTube channel. And, I was a big Christensen fan, and I still, even though that my vendetta with Christensen is personal, I don't blame anybody else for going and watching Christensen. I think that he is a good source of information. I just don't think that he deserves my view because of, we've talked about this before. But a lot of things have changed throughout my life, and I've met some really, really great people, and some of them because of Christensen. And I look back at this, and I've done this before on something I'm thankful for, but I think it does bear repeating. Yes, in spite of the fact that it was his interview that got me my first strike on my channel, I look back and I think that the person who has been the most directly influential to me, the person I'm most thankful for having in my life, on my streaming side, of course, obviously family on my personal side is going to be higher up on this, but on my streaming side, the person I'm most thankful for having in my life is Stephen Ignoramus. Hands down. One of the things I'm thankful for with Stephen, and one of the reasons I really call him one of my best friends, is something that I recognize in him, and something that I've recognized has helped to raise me up in the world of streaming into the world of everything else. And that is the fact that Stephen is the kind of person, I think this is what makes him such a good teacher, why he was so beloved as a teacher. While he never actually comes out and says, I expect you to be the best you can be, there's always an unspoken feeling when you're around Stephen that he is expecting you to be the very, very best that you can be. But it's not just if you're not the best that you can be, I don't want you in my life. It's an unspoken, I expect you to be the best that you can be at all times. And here, let me give you a boost and help you up over that wall so you can be the best that you can be. I've met a lot of very influential people in my life through Stephen Ignoramus. My co-host was a fan of his before she was a fan of mine. And now she's here and she helps him out every week. Well, again, another one of my best friends. But a lot of this comes back out. And, when I met Stephen, I was just sitting here and doing solo videos, a little bit scripted, and a little bit feeling like I wasn't doing the best here. I didn't have a lot of emotion in my videos. I've even gone back and looked back at some of them, and I didn't. And now I'm here. So I'm here where I legitimately get angry. I'll throw my headphones off and throw my glasses off when I read about the stupid shit. And Stephen and I do disagree on a lot of things fundamentally, especially when it comes down to policy and what's happening in the world and how to address the things that are happening in the world. But we do seem to balance each other a little bit too, especially when we're in the same room together. There's a balance, there's an argument. I look back at this, and that's probably one of the best people that's come into my life and one of the most influential. And I do hope that one day, and that's part of the reason that I want to launch and get Turns of Pages big enough to where it can, because I do hope that at some point in my life, I can do as much good for Steven's life as he's done for mine. I really do. That's my legitimate hope. So the restoration of my faith in humanity, the thing that I'm most thankful for today is, of course, Stephen Ignoramus. No Daily Ignoramus today, so you'll have to go wait and check him out tomorrow while he's doing his on-the-road stream. I recommend that you do so. I really hope that you will. And we're going to head out of here for the day. So let's get the outro up here, and oh, that's right. We got the restart that happened here, so my outro isn't sitting up on the front screen anymore. God damn it. So, thank you everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat, hung out with us today. I do hope that you're going to go check out Stephen Ignoramus. He's a great guy to have around. Definitely happy that he's coming to my life. We'll be back here tomorrow on this channel with more contemporary, more news and more headlines, and even catching up with some of the stuff. Although some of this Ukraine stuff is going to be expired by this point. There's some stuff I'm still going to touch on, but we'll touch on the main news coming up here tomorrow, including probably some laws. We'll probably talk more about the Don't Say Gay bill and the budget and everything else off of this, because the mainstream media has Ukraine fatigue at this point, and we know that it is. And I'm happy for it, because I don't want to keep reading the same story over and over again, and that's what it felt like I've been reading. Come back and join us tomorrow morning, hopefully at the regular time. Hopefully we won't have a power outage and I won't have to come back and redo all my scenes again, but definitely looking forward to seeing you guys here tomorrow morning for more contemporary, and we will see you then. Stick around if you're on Twitch for the raid, and until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.